So the human race is the only thing on earth, 8 billion of us, that takes from the earth, but doesn't go back in the earth to feed the earth after our death. So humans in today's world, guys, we can live 90 years easy. So for 90 years, we're using water, we're eating food that's grown from the earth, we're eating meat from animals that pull from the earth. Yet all those nutrients, all those enzymes in our bodies never get put back in the earth because guess what? All right, I'm going to tell you the rest of that during the next 14 minutes. Let's see how many of you stay to listen to the truth. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So my name is Samantha and I want to talk about this with you. So recently, my father-in-law passed away. We're all going to face that eventually. Our family members, our friends, ourselves. But you have a choice, folks. You have a choice on how you're going to be buried. In the traditional sense, everybody was embalmed and buried.
Turns out it doesn't really make good business sense to sell someone a piece of land for eternity. Whose idea was that? In some places, you can't buy a plot no matter how much money you have. As a result, cremation rates have risen fast. In 1950, if you suggested your grandmother be incinerated after she died, you'd probably be kicked from the family deathbed. But today, almost half of Americans choose cremation, citing simpler, cheaper, and more ecological as reasons.
But there's something that's happening around the world that people don't want to talk about. Cemeteries are running out of spaces to bury people. So you guys know I was demonetized. If you're new to my channel, yes, YouTube stole an income of $48,000 a month from me. We're going on month 3 with no income. But my videos are great and nobody can argue that. So if you'd like to row in my boat, anything at all, look in the top of comments. There are 4 different ways. Just open the comment up, read which one you prefer, and row in our boat. So then we started mausoleums. Can bury a whole lot of people going up, right? Excuse me. But a traditional burial in this day and age can run you anywhere from $12,000 to $25,000 for funeral, burial, and all. Okay, that's without your plot, the place you're going to bury your loved one, which could be additional $10,000 to $20,000, if not more, depending on what city, state, or country you are located in. There are other ways to bury people that just make more sense. Now, hear me out. I actually had people tell me when I said my father-in-law was being cremated that was anti-God, that was a sin. Now, folks, understand something. There is nowhere in the Bible that says that you cannot cremate someone. Nowhere. It's absolutely not in the Bible. What you have been taught, because you have heard people talk about the resurrection of the bodies your whole life, is that somehow you have to be in the ground to be resurrected. Sweetheart, your body's going to turn to mush in the ground, just like you're going to turn to ash in the crematorium. Doesn't matter. God created you from the dust. Don't you believe that he can find a dust particle somewhere with your specific DNA and resurrect a body for you? So after we got through all that, right? What I found was that actually being cremated is just as toxic as the formaldehyde buried body in the cement and metal wood casket 6 feet in the dirt.
I used to think that cremation was a sustainable form of disposition, but just think about it for a second. Cremation destroys the potential we have to give back to the earth after we've died. It uses an energy-intensive process to turn bodies into ash, polluting the air and contributing to climate change. All told, cremations in the US emit a staggering 600 million pounds of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere annually.
There are reasons for everything I just said, and I'm going to prove it to you. There are new and better options. For some reason, only in the last 200 years have people been presented with one or two options for death. You had to be embalmed and buried 6 feet in the ground, or you had to be embalmed and cremated. Now, in the past 30 years, people are pushing back. We're like, you know what? I'd really like an economically friendly burial. I'd really like to be cremated without the embalming fluid, which is toxic beyond belief, especially when burned. People are asking questions. Why did we turn death into some sick dress-up party with a dead body? It's not natural. Let me tell you why. First off, embalming came around at the late 1700s in Europe. It didn't become a big deal in America until after the Civil War, which was 100 years almost difference, right? In the 1800s. People began embalming because so many people were accidentally buried alive. Doctors were not real doctors back then. People did not know the signs of death, true death. And so they would just say, okay, this person's dead, and they'd bury a live person. They buried very quickly back then because of decomposition. You can only imagine. No AC, no freezers. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. So you can imagine how accidents happened. After the Civil War, they needed to transport bodies, our president, for one, President Lincoln, across states with no electricity. So embalming became a big deal because now they could get your loved one home to you. But there was a morbid side to embalming. Morticians told grieving mothers, I can embalm your child and they'll never decompose. I can embalm your husband and he will never decompose. I can embalm your mom. She'll look just like this for the next 60 years. You can leave her sitting in that chair. And so these hucksters lied to these innocent people. And after a year or two, the body did what it's going to do, folks. Break down. And people were driven insane over this. They were put in mental hospitals. They took their own lives because, oh my gosh, my baby, you know. People were different then. We're different now. Don't you agree? That in this day and age, we should have this conversation.
Why would I only bury a body 3 feet deep in my backyard? Well, let's talk about it. This is for educational purposes. I did not kill anybody and bury them illegally in my backyard. Now, let's talk about how deep a green burial grave should be and why it matters. The sweet spot is about 3 feet deep. Well, why not 6 feet like the old saying? Because that's too deep for natural decomposition. Here's the science. At 3 feet, the body is in the aerobic soil layer where oxygen-loving microbes thrive. These microbes break down the body naturally and efficiently, returning the nutrients to Earth. Go deeper, like 6 feet, and it's mostly anaerobic, meaning no oxygen, and that slows decomposition and causes more smell and creates methane. Plus, at the shallower depth, native plant roots can reach the grave, and wildlife and fungi help close the loop. So for greener conservation burials, we don't go deep to hide death. We bury at the depth that supports life.
Putting their bodies at a depth in the ground where natural breakdown is not going to happen. They're in an anaerobic level of soil at 6 feet. And I'm going to explain that word to you in a second. So that over years, It's just this toxic soup seeping back into our water system. Now, I am not about global warming or climate change. Neither one of them tickle my fancy, so to speak. What I am about, my friend, is keeping what clean water we do have left and what healthy soil is still in place, keeping it that way for the next generations until the Lord calls us all home. So, let's get into this.
Hollow, creating the holes that fish like to swim through. Once the concrete dries, the team rinses the balls with a mixture of sugar and water to expose the surfaces where sea life will grow. This is where the dead people come in. A company called Eternal Reefs uses Larry's creations for their memorials. They've dropped almost 2,500 of them over the past 20 years.
We work with families who have lost somebody and had their loved one cremated. They will come to one of our project sites.
The families mix cremated remains with concrete to make a separate centerpiece for the reef ball. They call it a pearl.
What you're going to do is you're going to put your hand down, you rock it back and forth. We put fresh concrete on the top of the reef ball, and then they put handprints, they write messages. Families are invited to bring things that represent their loved one's life as long as they're not environmentally harmful.
The remains replace some of the sand normally used in concrete.
They give you actually the bucket and the mix, and then you pour your remains into that mix and you stir it.
Phyllis Flowers lost her son to brain cancer when he was just 20 years old.
So there's my son. I had no idea what the Eternal Reef was until John found it. In a small way, he was giving back to the world in his mind by being able to add to the ecology of the coral reef that will save, of course, our seashores and build back sea animals and fish.
Families take their finished reef balls out to the open water, say a few words, maybe a prayer, and drop the memorial down to the seabed. The whole process costs about the same as a conventional cemetery burial. On Florida's Atlantic coast, another company is in the underwater burial business. The Neptune Memorial Reef is the final resting place for over 1,000 people. Here, the human remains are mixed into statues shaped like starfish or stingrays. It's also a tourist attraction.
We estimate there's probably over 2,000 divers a month that visit the Neptune Reef.
All I can say, folks, is that the stars are the limits on what you can do in today's world. We're burial for your loved one. We're the remains of the people that you love and cherish will give back to the earth. You came from the earth. The Lord says, I created you from the dust of the earth. Guys, I'm an organic, sustainable farmer. I understand that burying fish in the soil under my corn, just like Native Americans did for centuries, is going to give me a bumper crop of corn. So, humans are the most prevalent thing on earth other than viruses and insects, right? Like, we're everywhere. 8 billion of us. We are the things that take the majority of the nutrients from the soil for our living. We take the oil, we take the water, we take the nutrients as we grow food, eat it, transport it, all that good stuff. And yet we are never back in the soil. For the past 200 to 300 years, there is a deficit in our soil. And I honestly believe that is coming from the fact that humans have selfishly believed that somehow, some way, we should preserve ourselves and not get back to earth. Okay, now I am a born-again Christian. I don't do no mumbo-jumbo mess, but I understand basic science. And that basically makes the human race for the past 300 years parasitic to the earth. We are sucking from it without putting anything back into it. Think about that. You can get upset with me. Death is a very harsh topic. It is, a lot of people are terrified of death. So many people have already turned me off because they can't even imagine death. And funeral homes do it for you so that you can grieve without thinking. Just hand over your credit card. Hand over your nest egg. We got you. We'll bury your baby. But it doesn't have to be like that. While you're healthy, while your family's healthy and here, talk about it with them. I mean, places like California, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, y'all some woke fools over there. But Sam will give you this. You're getting death in an understanding in a way nobody else is. You guys are coming up with ways to put human bodies back in the earth or in the water to feed our country, while the rest of the nation somehow still thinks formaldehyde, concrete, wooden, steel is the way to go. So I just wanted to broach this topic with you guys. I love y'all. I have no doubt the religious people, the religious demonic people, not saying those are the saved people, that have been told all their life that they buried 6 feet in the ground to be resurrected are going to have a flipping cow. But let me put it to you this way. Christians die every day in places like the Congo and Ethiopia, and their bodies are just being discarded on the side of the road and burned in piles, people. And those people are martyrs for the Lord. They're in heaven without a doubt. But their bodies aren't going to be all properly embalmed 6 feet under the ground. I can promise you that too. So I need you to really let go of the misconceptions you've been raised with. And let's talk about ways that we can save this earth from 8 billion people being buried in caskets, embalmed under the ground in an aerobic state where it's going to poison the earth instead of nurture her. Just saying. You guys know I like to bring up these topics that make people's heads spin. If you'd like to support the work that I do here, row in the boat with me. I have a mission from the Lord to push back against demonic spirits, especially religious spirits. People have been taught things that are not right, that are nowhere in the Bible, but they'll live and die behind those things. And I really feel like the Lord has put me in a position to break those chains. Can I get an amen?